Amanda, I have my near and far, to and fro. I've got 8 pairs of glasses, and I think I'll just keep them attached to my head so I know where they're at. I want to be able to see the computer screen today.
You've taken 4 eyes to a new level, and now you're on
took 4 eyes to a new level.
Yeah,
okay.
Now you're 6 eyes.
Well, these help me see the computer screen.
You have some on your head too, right?
Yeah, I have a pair on my head. I know that. I can. All right. Anyhow, I'm your host, BKP. Good morning from the office. We're North Georgia's only live online morning show. And let me give you a little rundown of what we got going on today. Get your friends to .com because we got a big show today and a lot out in front of us to talk about. Our guest this morning, if you ever want to get 706-889-9700, 706-889-9700, and you can email me at chief@fetchernews.com. Also follow us on Twitter at FetcherNews, at FE.com. Okay, and then subscribe to our YouTube channel, FYN TV, FetcherNews.com while it exists, and then find us on Facebook so Mark Zuckerberg can sell our data with you included. Find us on Facebook there, Fetcher News, FYN TV, Team FYN Sports. Now, that being said, our guest this morning at 8:30 will be Republican candidate for Secretary of State, Josh McKoon. He'll be with us at 8:30. And let's talk to candidate McKoon about protecting our voter system. We hear all too often the discussion of a new voter system. So that will not be in place for the 2018 election. A new system will not be in place, and he will not be presiding over it. But we want to ask him about protecting our vote in the state of Georgia as Secretary of State. Then moving right along at 9 o'clock, we have a Republican candidate for governor, Casey Cagle, will be with us at 9 o'clock. And recently, him and currently Secretary of State Brian Kemp have had some exchanges in the media that we might want to explore. Also, several other things with candidate Casey Cagle, Republican for the state of Georgia. Those are our guests this morning. And, Markerberg, Facebook, all right, is going up to Capitol Hill to testify today. There he is. The little boy is going to Capitol Hill. He's going to go to Capitol Hill. I'm just a bill here on Capitol Hill. Remember that. He's going up to Facebook. Mark Zuckerberg, their CEO, is going up there to Capitol Hill. Jokingly, this will have their blinders on. This is Zuckerberg going into Congress, and they'll have all their blinders on and won't be able to see past anything. That's what I jokingly say. But Zuckerberg's going to be like, hold my beer. You have watched those, Amanda, you see all of those social media little photos there, like, hold my beer while I handle this, all right? Zuckerberg's going to be like, so FBI crashed an attorney's office and violated attorney-client privilege, and we're discussing what I did with data that people gave to me. Things attached. I'm not an attorney. We don't have an attorney-client privilege kind of thing, and hold my beer while I handle Congress on this one.
Right.
That's my feeling today. That just really is, and this is my little joke. This is Zuckerberg walking in. Obviously, this is not Congress, but it's my little joke of the blinders they have on. They can only see. Now, put this up. I'm going to go through this very quickly, and we will have, after Casey Cagle, we'll have more time to break this down and talk about it. I'd like to hear what you think of the FBI raiding Michael Cohen's office and hotel room yesterday. That's the attorney for Donald Trump. His personal attorney. I want to hear what you think, okay? 706-889-9700. Text us what you think. put it on or email us, or maybe we can put a question on Facebook, see what people think. We will get into that later in the show. So I just want to go over some couple things. Do you believe the deep state? Do you believe there's a such thing as the deep state? Do you? I, for one, do. Now, let me run this by you. So, President Donald Trump, let's make sure that we're clear right from the box, not the end game. They are treating, this is what they want when it comes to the President of the United States. This is not a joke. This is actually not a joke. This is what the deep state wants. They want a mugshot like John Gotti, okay? They realistically are treating the President of the United States like they're going after John Gotti, okay? And I have a mugshot of when Gotti was arrested, all right? And if we could put that up, please. And this is, I'm not joking around. This is exactly what they want. They want you, they want to go after this guy like he's the mafioso in New York City. That's not the picture I sent you. I sent you a picture of John Gotti, his mugshot this morning. That's not it. There you go. Thank you very much. Okay. This is John Gotti, the mobster. Now, what does it have to do with anything? Because this is in New York City. This was the Godfather at one time in New York City. And of all people, the person that really went after organized crime in New York City, Rudy Giuliani. And this is really no joke. This is who they feel Donald Trump is. And this is the end game. You might think I'm being silly. They want to see Donald Trump actually doing his picture there as he's being arrested. And this is John Gotti and his attorney. It's Cutler, okay? And this guy Cutler, I have a picture. It says Gotti and Cutler, okay? This is in a courtroom. Southern District of New York, I think, and this is John Gotti and his attorney, all right? And I used to watch all of the New York media. Now, put up Bruce Cutler there for a minute. And I used to watch all of the New York media, okay, every night. And the way they kept people away from Gotti for years was this guy right here, his attorney. And his attorney could not. There was attorney-client privilege. Now, here's the thing I want to say. And the reason I brought this up, John Gotti was one of the worst mobsters in the long list, okay, of murderers. John Gotti was a crook, a criminal, no good. But he had an attorney that stayed in front of everything. But we have Stormy Daniels, okay, and there's a picture of Trump and Stormy Daniels, and they raid Trump's attorney's office and hotel room, looking for the computer and documents on a payout to $130,000 payout to a porn star. 130, Michael Cohen, okay? And that's what they're looking at. The FBI raided the office of the they raided the office of the sitting president of the United States attorney. Okay? That's why you say, ask my attorney, okay? They're looking at bank fraud and campaign finance violations. Early Monday morning, they bust in and take years of communication in a raid. The FBI took confidential Trump attorney-client conversations. Pure and simple, a witch hunt. Now, Paul Manafort, I don't have a picture of this morning. He's probably a little greasy, probably guilty of something. But you remember they raided Paul Manafort's house. Remember that? I don't remember the raid on Hillary Clinton or Bill Clinton's files. I don't remember the raid. I don't remember the FBI raid on the DNC when the FBI wanted to see the DNC server. And the DNC's, no, we have an outside source looking at it. I don't remember the FBI raid on the Clintons' home. Was it July 3rd? Peter Strzok and several FBI agents interviewed Hillary Clinton. I don't remember any raid. I don't remember a raid on John Podesta after we learned all of the things that we did in his emails from the DNC server. I don't remember any FBI raid looking for anything where payments are concerned. I don't remember a raid on anyone in the Obama administration. Maybe I'm missing that. I don't remember a raid on Peter Strzok's home to look for more of his and Lisa Page's text message documents, something that may be hiding in Peter Strzok's house. After we learned everything we did about former acting director of the FBI, Andrew McCabe, I don't remember a raid on his house. The only place we have hardcore evidence, okay, is on that side of the aisle. McCabe, Strzok, Podesta, the list goes on, George Soros's files. I mean, we would be all day breaking this down. I don't remember any raids. And do you not believe in the deep state now? Now, we have Syria with chemical attacks, okay, that the president has to deal with. We have an upcoming meeting with North Korea that is actually discussing denuclearization. We are in the middle of major trade negotiations. Okay, it's not a trade war, it's trade negotiations worldwide, repairing the disaster that's been made out of trade. And we have a Robert Mueller, which you have a picture of him, and James Comey, they're friends, okay? I don't know how I have them labeled. I got one of former FBI director. There's James Comey, former FBI director, Robert Mueller, special counsel, okay? We got Jeff Sessions, the attorney general, that recused himself. Jeff Sessions actually sent, I don't know if I put a picture, he gave everything over to Rod Rosenstein, the deputy director of the, there's Rod with Jeff Sessions. He's the deputy director of the Department of Justice. He sent everything over to him, signed off for the FBI to instruct, signed off for the Southern District U.S. Attorney. Now you're going to hear the Southern District U.S. Attorney, which is a guy by the name of, get this right, Jeffrey Berman. I think I sent his picture over. Is the one that actually signed off on this. but actually it was Rod Rosenstein that the U.S., you got to remember, they're going to tell you that this guy here is a Trump appointee. Now, there's people going to go through the timeline and they're going to explain this is a Trump appointee right here to the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Southern District of New York. But every district of the U.S. Attorney's Office reports to Rod Rosenstein, which signed off, which is over the FBI, which the FBI conducted a raid. Nothing here? Nothing? On Monday, the FBI notified Judicial Watch that the Bureau would need at least 3 years to hand over released communications between anti-Trump FBI agent Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. Why are we having such difficulty? Why are we having such difficulty getting information out of our Justice Department, the taxpayer, and our FBI that belongs to the taxpayers? Why can't we just kick the door down to what belongs to us and get our information? Are they busy in there redacting confidential? I mean, everything we get, folks, from the FBI, everything we get from the Department of Justice have weeks, months of somebody redacting everything. We get a page that just looks like a black magic marker went through everything, and we get every third sentence of what belongs to you and I. And then the deep state tells you and I that that's for our own good. They're protecting, confidential information. They're protecting security clearance stuff that you and I cannot know. It's to our best interest. Do you not realize we are in a situation now in this world, or the United States of America, where everything's to our best interest, and you and I keep saying, thank you. Can you do something else to us? But who is redacting the attorney-client privilege information that the FBI, with a warrant, just went in an attorney's office and hotel room and took the documents between him and his client? Who? Who is going to go through and redact? Mueller? Mueller's team? James Comey? Friends of Comey? We're talking the people that have leaked to the Washington Post, the people that have leaked to the New York Times, the people that run down to the car and write memos every time they speak to the President of the United States, the people that are on book tour. Loretta Lynch, former Attorney General, Department of Justice. Lester Holt, last night, ran cover for James Comey. Did I send a picture of that? Lester Holt, NBC. I didn't get a chance to go through it and watch completely. That's Comey. Why the hell you got Comey up when I call for Lester Holt? There you go. There's Lester Holt and Loretta Lynch, right? In an interview. And Loretta Lynch is explaining why Hillary Clinton's email and her server was a matter. It wasn't an investigation. She was not being investigated. It was a matter, okay? An email matter. The server was a matter. They changed. Nobody's talking about how they changed the language in the documents that Comey read to make sure that Hillary Clinton could not be indicted or stand any legal charges. There's a group called the Deep State that worked so hard to make sure that Hillary did not see handcuffs. You have made a mistake. I'm going to look at the camera, and I'm sorry if it offends you. You have made a mistake if you think that there's a group of people that do not want to see Donald Trump with his mugshot like John Gotti. You made a mistake if you don't think that. So Loretta Lynch explains why it's a matter, and then she talks about how it was 107 degrees, and Bill Clinton came on her plane, and they just started talking, and every time she thought Bill was going to leave, he just started talking again. Really? And is this not for running cover for this week's book tour of James Comey? Come on. Really? Put it together. I mean, there's two things. You got James Comey, the disgraced former FBI director, that actually Rod Rosen's the statement of how yes, it was his recommendation to the president that James Comey be fired. This disgraced former FBI in America, only in America, can you run a deep state agency of the disgraced FBI and protect Hillary Clinton, protect the deep state, protect the Barack Obama, protect corruption, and get a book deal. A book deal. And people gushing that can't wait to get you on. George Stephanopoulos can't wait to get him on. That Chuck Todd, they can't wait. They are salivating. They are fighting in the halls of these media news outlets on who got the first interview with this disgraced former FBI director. One thing I want you to watch for. This is over, but not over. We have no Russian interference. We have the Department of Homeland Security, Kirstjen Nielsen, I think her name is currently, and former Jeb Johnson, I think his name is, from the Obama administration. Both of them testified on the same day that they could not see where one vote had been changed by any kind of Russian interference. The Clintons stole millions. Put up Trump and Stormy Daniels. I guess the lesson to be learned here, Mr. President, the next time she says she's a porn star, move on. Ask Tiger Woods how it doesn't end well. We have a woman that is claiming all of these things. We have a woman with a slimy attorney. I'm sorry to all attorneys out there. There are attorneys that are not as slimy, okay? We have a slimy attorney that is pushing this woman. Her character is a porn star, okay? And we're looking at a $130,000 payment that may have broke campaign finance laws. The Clintons took money from the Chinese, folks, and ended up in the World Trade Organization and screwed America. The Clintons are the lead of how to break all the campaign finance laws. Obama took foreign money. They took foreign money. The Clintons stole millions of dollars from the poor people in Haiti. The Clintons stole millions of dollars. The Clintons flew around. Uma carried the suitcase of cash that they received. Everywhere. Have we ever completely gotten all of Hillary Clinton's travel documents, schedule as Secretary of State? They're talking about possibly Donald Trump giving a speech and getting a payment. Remember the $500,000 payment Bill Clinton got in Russia for a speech? Or remember the speech Bill Clinton gave, and then the next day, was it, that through a Canadian channel Uranium One was sold to Russia? Really? On and on and on. Remember that server with confidential secret emails in Hillary's bathroom or basement? Remember that guy named Brian Pagliano? All he had to do was say, I plead the fifth. Remember BleachBit, where they seen the feds were coming, so they washed down the server with BleachBit? Remember you and I learned what BleachBit is from the Clintons? Remember that? Remember one day Vince Foster went out and sat on a park bench and shot himself in the back of the head? Remember Ron Brown, former Commerce Secretary, whatever, forgot to put fuel on the plane? Somebody, who was in charge of fueling up the plane? Remember? I don't know. Here's the one thing I want to say before we go to break. Two things I want to say before we go to break. Number one, I got to go to break because I have my guest on the line. Be careful when you hear these are Republicans, because yes, there's a lot of them. They're going to tell you these are lifelong Republicans that are going after Donald Trump. All right. And second, never again. Put that clip up or that picture. Don't forget, never again. There is a group in this country that are determined that never again does somebody as radical as they say Donald Trump is gets elected president of the United States. Never again is the end all. All right. I'm your host, BKP. We got to take a break. When we come back, we will have Republican candidate for Secretary of State of Georgia, Josh McKoon, on the line. Take us a break.
Had the time of my life. I never felt like this before. I swear it's the truth, and I owe it all to you. I'll tell you something. This could be love, because I've had the time of my life. I've never felt like this before, 'cause I've had the time of my life.
The Tupelo Tea mission is to provide over 80 premium tea blends for tea lovers who are looking for ways to explore new flavors and blends. Come visit Tupelo Tea, located in beautiful downtown Blue Ridge at Sycamore Crossing. Be sure to sample our various varieties of honey and tea. Visit us on the web at tupelotea.com or call us at 706-946-TEAS. That's TEAS. Tupelo Tea, located in beautiful downtown Blue Ridge.
Ace is your helpful place for paint and home goods, tools, outdoor living, and lawn equipment. But did you know Ace Hardware of Blue Ridge is a little bit more? We have hunting rifles and accessories for your next hunting trip. We have Amish furniture imported directly from Ohio. And Ace Custom Woodworks for all your custom wood project needs, from cabinets to artwork. Ace Hardware of Blue Ridge. We have your new house in stock.
Hi, I'm Rhonda the Mattress Lady, and this is my husband, Gary, owners of Mattress Overstocked in Ella next to Walmart. And we want to earn your business. From the time you walk in our door to the time we deliver your new mattress to your door, you will see the difference. Our selection and prices are the best in North Georgia, and customer service is our top priority. So y'all come on in and let us help you find the right mattress at the right price. That's Mattress Overstocked in Ella next to Walmart.
Better
days ahead. It's just this simple. Nobody beats Days on price. If it's a Chevy, you'll pay less at Days Chevrolet in Jasper. Now save $4,000 off a new 2018 Chevy Malibu, or save up to $10,000 off a new 28 Silverado Crew Cab. It doesn't matter which Chevy you choose. Nobody beats Days on price. $10,000 off Silverados and $4,000 off Malibus at Days Chevy in Jasper.
Better days ahead, Days Chevrolet.
Find new roads.
What you gonna do with all that junk?
Two.
And we're back. I'm your host, BKP Morning Show. Our guest now is Republican candidate for Georgia Secretary of State, Josh McKoon. Mr. McKoon, how are you?
I'm doing great, Brian. Thank you so much for having me today.
Well, you're running a statewide race, so you're all over the state. Can we ask where you're at this morning? I know it's every day you're somewhere new and speaking to a different audience. Can I ask you where you're at today, where you're campaigning?
So I'm in the Atlanta area today. We're actually doing some filming for some commercials most of the day today, and then I will have a campaign fundraising kickoff tonight at Five Seasons in Sandy Springs there at the Prado from 6 to 8. So it's a full day.
Let me ask you, there was a forum last night, and let's get right into this. Let's get this subject immediately. There was a forum last night, and I read an article, and there seems to be, every time the Secretary of State candidates get together or you have an interview, the continuing question of elections and safeguarding elections. I want to know two things. One, as Secretary of State, what kind of voting machine, or how would you want it to be that the voting machine, how would you want the citizens of Georgia to vote? Paper ballot, machine? What does your Secretary of State office look like as far as voting?
Well, my guidelines on this are really, there are two things. Number one, we need the process to select the new machines to be an open, competitively bid process that is totally transparent. And we ought to have whatever that technology is, needs to have a paper trail which can be audited independently. That, I think, where we really need to have some input, local elections officials who actually conduct the elections. I think they need to be very involved in driving the process of what specific solution do we pick. But in terms of a general guideline, I think whatever we have, we've got to have that paper audit trail that can be independently audited and verified.
All right, well, that's something is we hear paper ballot, but we're not talking about a paper ballot. You're saying paper trail, meaning we would still have a computer system that we would vote on, or a screen type that we would vote on. Are you advocating what I hear is like the receipt of your vote? When you say paper trail, what exactly are you saying?
So there are several different systems. I'll tell you one that I think is a good one, and that is one that has a touchscreen interface. When you are finished voting, it actually does print out a physical ballot that you are then able to confirm your choices before you turn it into an optical scanner and then drops down into a ballot box. So we have the electronic record of your vote, but we also have a physical ballot. And in the case of a close election, take the city of Atlanta's mayor's race in December, 700 vote margin. You can't really do a recount with our current technology because we don't have physical ballots. We can just run those machines again and see if the counts match up. This way we can do a manual hand recount in close elections. So that's the sort of solution that I'm thinking about.
Well, we continue to hear that, and I know you continue to answer that question on a daily basis everywhere you go. So let's switch gear. What would you want to put in place? And I understand the paper ballot as far as to safeguard. What would you like to see to safeguard? And I understand most of this is legislation that would be necessary to safeguard the vote, to stop the illegal voting. Now, I'm going to say that in the affirmative because I always believe there's no such thing as a statewide election that doesn't have some sort in one way or another. But to pinpoint illegals, false identification, voting twice, whatever it may be, what would your Secretary of State office want to put in place to safeguard the actual vote once it's cast in Georgia, and who is actually casting that vote?
Sure. So, and let me say real quick, you did mention the 6th District Congressional Republican Party Forum. I want to thank them for putting that on, and I'm very grateful for the result we got in the straw poll. Over 54% of those that attended 4 years ago. A lady shows up at the elections office with 9 absentee ballots. She's asked why she has them. She says, I'm doing this as a service nursing home where I work. They did an investigation. They found 15 of those 19 residents were not well enough to sign their name or make their mark, but someone had filled out those applications and turned them in and voted those ballots. Now, the problem with that story, because people on the left will say, well, those votes weren't counted. The problem is no one was prosecuted and no one went to jail. And as the Secretary of State, I'm going to make sure you have a relationship with our district attorneys and our solicitors that when those kinds of cases come to our attention, people know there's going to be a consequence. That's really important. Is clear up this issue about the 48,000 driver's license and identity cards that have been issued to illegal aliens in our state. If they're going to have those, we at least need them to be plainly distinguishable from the regular driver's license. On day one as Secretary of State, I'm going to look at that limited term driver's license database that includes the driver's licenses that have been issued to these illegal aliens. I'm going to go to all 159 counties, and we're going to look at the voting list after they have moved out of state. It is very, very routinely doing that. There is no statewide process for that. In my home county, the Board of Elections literally takes out the newspaper obituaries cooperating with the Social Security Administration to look at their death records and make sure that list is being cleaned up on a routine basis. That takes away the ability for fraud.
Could the Social Security Administration, I know that's federal, but could they not like send a notice to you? You know, let me just say this, Mr. McCoon, while we're talking about this, all too many times here recently in situations we see breakdown between agencies. And could the Social Security Administration not send notice as part of the process to the voter registration? Because they certainly can figure out not to send the next check
exactly
to the deceased person. Now, I mean, I have a friend of mine that got the check for her spouse 2 days before the end of the return it because her spouse died before the end of the month. That's how they do that. Am I wrong?
No, you're not. You're zeroing in on exactly what I believe the solution is, which is we know there's a government agency that tracks very closely when people are passing away, and we ought to take it to be able to clean up our rolls. And we also need to make sure we're doing it when people move from state to state. We have people, we live in a society, people are very mobile. And so if we've got people registered in multiple states, we need to make sure that they're only registered in the state where they're currently residing. So those are two things. If we do that, we tighten up our absentee ballot process, we can do an awful lot to eliminate opportunities to cheat. And the last thing I'll say to you on this is we do not have enough sworn law enforcement officers in the Secretary of State's office handling investigations. We wouldn't say we solved the speeding problem if we reduced our number of state troopers to 2. which is the situation we have right now. We have 2 in Van covering 159 counties. That's unacceptable. But there is a voter fraud problem, and it needs to be resolved.
Well, let me say this also. When you say state to state, I think it clears up what the priority is in this country sometimes, and the priority of making sure that our vote concerned with foreign interference in our vote. But years ago, several years ago, there was a national database put in for driver's license, which didn't affect state DMV. You still have a Georgia driver's license, North Carolina and Alabama. They still have their state DMV, but there's a shared database to where you don't run over to Alabama and get a driver's license because you're holding a current one in Georgia.
Right.
Is this too much to ask to have some sort of database on voting? Is it not that critical that maybe something like that nationally, a national database? And I hate to say database because everybody gets all nervous. Don't take me wrong. And I'm not trying. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do understand what you're saying. I frankly don't think a national database is necessary in place with all of the states that border Georgia, just to be routinely sharing that information, that we could solve most of this problem. We had a state elections board meeting last week where there were 6 people who had voted in North Carolina and Georgia in the 2014 election. So this is going on. It's not just a question of people being registered in multiple states. People are actually voting in the same election cycle in multiple states. So we've got to deal with it.
Well, I want to back up just a little bit on the phrase national database, because I know that can be a touchy phrase. So I'm not advocating, but you understand what I was trying to say. Just some kind of notification system that, hey, you're registered already in another state, or when you go to register, to see if you're registered at another state or address. Moving right along there, you said something to distinguish, clear distinguish the difference in types of driver's license. Now, there was a bill this past year that did not make it through, correct? That would have had a resident a different kind of look on the driver's license, so the individual at the election booth would immediate difference in distinguishing a resident versus somebody that's legally here to vote. Is that correct?
That's right. I actually in the Senate that would have required that these licenses say non-citizen and that they also say not for federal identification. They couldn't be used for purposes basically other than driving. And unfortunately, we couldn't get it through. I can tell you 2 things. If I'm the next Secretary of State, number one, we're going to do what I described earlier, taking that limited term database and using it to go through the list and make sure we purge anyone who's not a citizen. But secondly, what we're going to do is, as part of our legislative package, we're going to come back again on this very important issue to distinguish what kind of driver's license people are issuing. Because I've talked to poll workers all over the state, and I've said, do you know what it means if you get presented with a driver's license that says limited term at the top? Do you know that's a red flag and that you need to ask questions? And the answer universally has been no. I did not know about that, didn't realize that was there. And frankly, even if you were looking for it, you might miss it because it is almost identical to the driver's license you and I have. That is crazy, and we need to fix it. So I'm sorry it didn't happen this year, but it's something we're not giving up on, and I certainly would intend on making it part of my legislative package next year.
Well, I want to be clear because I live in rural Georgia, and you have visited our area several times, and we have voter polls that might have 300 people registered at that area, and most of the poll workers that come in there, and I don't want to say they don't check ID because they do. You pull it out, they go through everything like they're supposed to, but really it's a formality pulling the ID out because you're saying first name basis basically to all the poll workers when you go in to vote. But when you get into Atlanta and you get into Macon and Savannah and Columbus, especially around that Atlanta area, these poll workers do not know who's in line. And it's such a rush out the door and all the machines are full of people voting. it's really tough to scrutinize that identification to not keep the line moving. Am I right or wrong?
That's exactly right. I mean, there are a lot of pressures on people on election day. We don't need to. This should not be a chore. This should be an easy thing for the poll worker to immediately to jump out at them when they are looking at the license. And other states have figured this out. You know, South Carolina does this already. Their license actually says no lawful status, which I think is an even better phrase to use. So other states have figured this out. We ought to be able to figure it out in Georgia and just make it easier on our elections officials, because what's happening right now is when somebody goes and applies for that driver's license, because of the Federal Motor Voter Act, they are being automatically registered to vote unless they opt out.
Right.
And so that's creating a real problem that we need to fix.
Well, let me move on to two things before I get my next guest today, because there's two other things. So we've talked about protecting the integrity of the vote, and obviously you will not be, if elected, Secretary of State through this election cycle. But next election cycle, we feel very strongly that so many challenges to voting, voter registration, we see a mounting legal challenge from the Democrats, an enormous challenge ahead. What does the next Secretary of State, do you think, face in Georgia here with the legal challenges that are coming that office's way?
Well, one of the things I say in every presentation I make is that one of the reasons I'm running for Secretary of State is I'm a lawyer with an election law background. And I think that's vitally important because, as you point out, the Secretary of State's office has been sued, and we can expect it will continue to be sued by out-of-state far-left groups who know they can't change Georgia election law at the state house, so they're trying to change it at the courthouse. And I think the most important part of it is being prepared, being able to anticipate what those legal issues might be, and who better to do that than someone with a legal background with a very good working knowledge of Georgia election law. And that's a big reason I'm running for this office. So if I'm elected, we're going to take a pretty good look at the state election law, the federal election law, look at where we might have problems, try to proactively address them, and be prepared when that litigation does come to us. But it's no longer a sleepy position as it used to be. Ever since the 2000 presidential election and Katherine Harris and the hanging chads and butterfly ballots, you know, the Secretary of State gets sued, and so you need a lawyer in there to manage those processes.
Well, you know, I think somebody cannot overlook the Secretary of State actually certifies elections, and correct?
That's correct.
And you certify the election that actually goes to the electoral college for the state is signed by every Secretary of State in the United States. Am I correct? That's what made Katherine Harris so famous, as she certified that election.
That's right? Exactly right.
Okay.
That's exactly right.
Let's move on to something else before we leave, because I want to give you an opportunity. Sometimes, Secretary of State, we get so focused on elections and voting machines, we sometimes don't talk about the other things in the office. Like this is where you get certifications, qualifications, licensing. Licensing comes through this office. Tell me about some of the most ridiculous, my words, licensing in the state of Georgia that's coming through the Secretary of State's office that could be eliminated overnight.
Well, two quick examples. Number one, we license librarians in our state. Now, you think about this. Licensing is a permission slip from government to go to work, and we license things because there's a public health or public safety interest. If we stopped licensing librarians tomorrow, there would not be a public health or public safety crisis. The other issue I would bring to your audience's attention has to do with cosmetology license holders. Now, I'm not saying we shouldn't have cosmetology licenses because they deal with volatile chemicals. They can hurt people. There is a public health interest there. But we require, on average, 350 days of training before someone can get their cosmetology license. And by comparison, An EMT license holder who renders life-saving aid in the event of a medical emergency spends on average 31 days in training. So the idea that it takes 10 times the training to get a license to cut and color hair and do nails as it does to render life-saving aid in the event of a medical emergency just speaks to some of the issues we have in the office. We need to streamline licensing to connect more people to the dignity of honest hard work. Americans for Prosperity has done a nationwide study, found 2.5 million new jobs could be created. Say that's 50,000 jobs in Georgia, which is extremely conservative. That's how many jobs we're talking about bringing with Amazon, a $10 billion economic incentive package, and all the rest of it. So we can create a lot of jobs just by getting government out of the way and cutting red tape.
The licensing, now let me ask you a question for our viewers. Is that something you will have to get legislation on, or are they certain license requirements that you as Secretary of State can just end with executive order in the office? Is that, or is that these things you're going to have to pull together a list there under the Gold Dome? Hey, I need these changed. How does that work?
It's a mix of legislative and administrative issues. If you wanted to get rid of a license entirely, and you would need to repeal the act that involves that. But if you're talking about the number of hours and you're talking about some of the other requirements, a lot of those issues can be handled administratively within the office.
Okay, I don't want to leave without two more things. Number one, and because I got another guest, and I've got a tight timeline. I'm talking to myself, as you know me all too well, Mr. McCune. I know we could get going here. You just finished what may be your last legislative session at this current time. And in that, your last legislative session as a senator, what bills came through that you really liked that passed? Which ones didn't make it all the way through that you were hoping to? How did that session end for you?
Well, I think on the positive side, to me, development was that the Senate really led, and I believe your next guest really led on the question of extending a crony capitalist tax break to the commercial aviation industry. And I think that the legislature is to be applauded for resisting the temptation to do that and to stand up and say, we want a tax structure that treats everybody fairly, that treats everybody the same, that doesn't pick winners and losers. So to me, that was probably the best thing that happened during the session. There were several things I was disappointed about. We've talked about the driver's license bill. Obviously, religious freedom remains unfinished business. Both the RFRA bill and the faith-based adoption bill, I believe those bills are going to move forward in the next legislative session. I believe they're going to be signed by the next Republican governor of the state. So I've enjoyed my 8 years in the Senate, but it was definitely time for me to move on, and I'm looking forward to returning to the Capitol next year in a different capacity as the next Secretary of State.
You're an attorney. How important is attorney-client privilege, and how important is it to us to protect this as a nation?
Obviously, attorney-client privilege is incredibly important. It is a cornerstone of the American legal system. The only way you can really have an effective attorney-client relationship is if client communications are privileged. Obviously, I know where you're going with that question, and I, like everyone else, I think was pretty stunned by the news yesterday of the FBI raid on Michael Cohen's offices. This is clearly a developing story. We're going to learn more about it. But I think we all have to be very mindful that attorney-client privilege, again, is a cornerstone of the American legal system. And so we'll have to see how this all plays out. But, it's very disturbing, the events of the last 24 hours.
Thank you. We wish you well on the campaign trail. We hope we'll see you soon. If you're in North Georgia, let us know. We'd like to have you in studio or come over and see you. And between now and election, we'd like to get you back on.
Thank you so much, Brian.
I appreciate it. You have a nice day. That's Josh McCune. He's Republican. Josh McCune is the Republican to Georgia. We're going to take a brief break right now. And And when we return, we'll be on with Republican candidate for Georgia Governor Casey Cagle. Take us a break a minute.
Hello, my name is Chad Watkins. I'm the manager at Larry's Body Shop. We are a family-owned and operated business and have been serving the North Georgia area since 1978. We are located at 1216 Progress Road in Ellijay, Georgia. Our shop specializes in collision repair, and we work with all major insurance companies. Larry's Body Shop is ICAR Gold, the highest roll of training recognized by the collision repair industry. It is estimated that only 10% of collision shops meet these standards. Our shop consists of state-of-the-art equipment such as laser measurement system, down-drive spray booth, spot and MIG welding equipment. All of our paints are mixed on-site so that we can guarantee your paint to match every time. I know that having an accident can be a stressful event. We take pride in making sure our customers are satisfied with the repair of their vehicles. Our waiting area is clean and comfortable with free Wi-Fi and refreshing beverages. So if you're in an accident, stop by and see us at Larry's Body Shop.
Circuit World, brand new merchandise at unbelievably low prices. Furniture, appliances, and electronics. Circuit World is locally owned and operated, serving the tri-state area. Circuit World has highly trained professionals to help. Visit your hometown Circuit World today. 3 locations in Georgia: Ellijay, Blue Ridge, and Blairsville, Franklin, and Murphy, North Carolina. No credit checks, so let Circuit World deliver to you today.
North Georgia Diamond is your source for diamonds. Come on in to view the area's largest selection of fine jewelry at North Georgia Diamond. All repairs and designs are done on-site by our jewelers. And North Georgia Diamond has the lowest prices on loose diamonds. You can also sell your gold, silver, and coins at North Georgia Diamond between Walmart and Lowe's in East Ellijay. Locally owned by Bill and Allison Craig, North Georgia Diamond is your source for diamonds in North Georgia.
In 1981, Reed Nicholson began selling tires out of an old barn in Mineral Bluff. Little did he know that he had just laid the groundwork for the most trusted names in automotive services in the Blue Ridge area. In 1997, Nicholson Tire Center became what it is today, holding the same values of faith, family, and great customer service. 2 locations to serve you, and the Blue Ridge location is currently expanding to offer fast service and the largest U-Haul provider in Georgia. Nicholson Tire Center, Blue Ridge, and Mineral Bluff.
Medium Pizza Hut pizzas, just $5.99 each.
Did they say Pizza Hut?
For $5.99?
Yes, and yes.
Yes. Introducing the deal you want on the pizza you crave. 2 medium pizzas, just $5.99 each. No one out pizzas the hot.
KP, and good morning from the office, North Georgia's only live online morning show. We're joined now on the line with Republican candidate for Georgia Governor Casey Cagle. Mr. Cagle, how are you this morning?
I'm doing great, Brian. It's great to be with you this morning.
Let me go right to some pointed questions. I know you have a busy day, and I don't know how much time we really have. So I'm going to stay with some pointed questions. Last night, I had the opportunity to, and I do this all through the campaign season, of going to living rooms where there's 20 people and a candidate is there on a meet and greet. And I went to one in Hiawassee, Georgia last night, about 20 in the living room, and a candidate was there. And what I hear all the time in these little settings, intimate settings, is every single one comes out with the question, no matter the candidate, about the budget. And we have a budget that has grown over $1 billion a year. I think it went from 17 billion. Now we're up to 26 billion. And sometimes the answer I get it's paralleling the rate of growth for services in the state of Georgia. but that's not what's getting asked in the living rooms in Georgia in small communities. What would a Governor Casey Cagle do about this, what we feel is an exploded budget, and can it be cut? Can we still get the services? What say you?
Well, there's no question. First and foremost, with me as governor, there are two things that I'm going to implement. And then secondly, is that will be put in place to specifically direct agencies to understand what it is they're programming in the attenuation portion of it. We've got to get to the very base and really refocus agencies on doing exactly what they're designed to do, and not just
Well, let me say this, and I know I'm not wanting to get the discussion on other states and how they budget. But, the Georgia budget, although you balance the budget with tax receipts, which is the state's constitution, that you have to balance it every year. But some other states, they break up departments and pass these appropriations bills individually for departments instead of what I call, even in Georgia, and I know you may not like this, still the budget's like an omnibus where everything does get pushed in, and sometimes it's hard to look into each and every department to see what can be cut.
Well, and again, going back to what I just articulated, which is, I think is very, very important, is you're right. In this omnibus bill, the only thing that you're really analyzing is the increase over and above, or the decrease in that particular agency. And what needs to occur is we need to begin every single year, no different than we do in our family or no different than I do in my businesses, the same kind of approach that we start at a zero. We begin over every single year, and we program accordingly in a zero-based budgeting approach. That will create greater efficiencies and a reduction in cost as well.
All right, let's talk about job growth. And all too many times we hear, and I'm going to come from it from a conservative side. Conservatives don't really like to hear a politician say, create jobs. We don't believe government creates jobs. We would like to hear more of somebody telling us of creating an environment that is business friendly to grow jobs. So can you define what a Governor Casey Cagle would do to promote and put an environment in place for us to grow jobs in Georgia, not create them?
Yeah. Well, one, I think you're right. I mean, we do have a tendency to talk about the create successful, and that type of system is in place, and it needs to be fair and equitable. If you're a big business or a small business, a mom and pop, the same type of incentives, tax incentives, need to. People use that to think that that's a dirty word, but let me be very clear. Economic development is a full contact sport, and we have statutory incentives that are in place. And when I say that, that means a jobs tax credit. So if you're a small business and you're creating 10 jobs, then you get the same exact job tax credit that a large company like Mercedes-Benz or Amazon or whoever else is coming in. That is important, that we have equitable across the board for all. And then making sure that our environment is conducive. And when we say that, let me be honest, the reason we've been able to create almost 700,000 jobs can be created is we have a low tax state. We have a environment that is fair and just, a tort system that is not onerous to business, and a workforce that is second to none. Those are the four building blocks that have to occur in order to be successful. Now, we've got great assets. The fastest growing port, the airport, which is the busiest airport, Fortune 500 companies that create a synergy where people want to be and locate and be a part of. All of those things are very, very, as governor, those are the levers that you have to pull. And the good for Georgia is we have so much to offer and so many companies that want to be here. No one's leaving Georgia to go to California. They're California to Georgia. And it's because of that environment that we've created. And this historic tax cut that we just passed, moving 6% to 5.75 and then to 5.5. And under my administration, we're going to lower it even more. Those types of things are game changers that continue to allow us to be the number one state to do business in.
Well, we hear that, and I appreciate your answer. So, I mean, some of us would wonder, why not just say to Amazon, and I know this is not totally your call. I know Governor Deal and the economic development team is working on that. But why not tell Amazon this is the Georgia tax structure that everybody else is working within, and we would love to have you come to our state. But then we're hearing that there may be a special session called just to work out incentives for Amazon. So very quickly, so I can get to a couple more subjects, what say you where that's concerned?
Well, I mean, first of all, Amazon's going to operate under the same exact tax code that we currently have, no different than any of the others. The incentives that are over and above that is predominantly around local jurisdictions that are coming in with their incentive package. So, I mean, these are, yes, very complex, but at the end of the day, we're talking about 50,000 jobs. So there's no question that just the jobs tax credit statutorily that is in place would require you to have a special session just for that alone. So, but again, fairness, equitable to all, not sweetheart deals.
Well, 50,000 jobs in a company like that. Obviously there has to be some sort of impact studies when actually a public location, physical location is determined. And that could take time in itself, what the impact of the area is. I want to move to two things because I know our time is short. And two things where your opponents have. I was at the debate last week, Saturday night, a week ago, where the foster care bill came up, and I want you to clear something up for our viewers and people that you're asking for their vote this morning. The foster bill came up, and there was discussion on having the adoption, faith-based adoption protection amendment attached to it. And you said you used a legal statement as far as the rules of the Senate that it was not germane to the bill. Is foster care not one to care for children and hopefully reunite them with their family, and also to have maybe adoption? How was that not connected to that bill and could not been put on that amendment on the foster care bill according to the Senate rules, as you stated?
Yeah, so there are two components here. Number one is, any opponent or anyone that says of giving protection to faith-based organisms is just flat wrong, because we passed the bill out of the Senate. Now, this was an effort to find a vehicle or a rider to attach this language onto another bill. You can do that in the rules of the Senate, but it has to be germane. And germane means that it has to be legally attached in a way that is the same subject matter and the same code section. I am not the person who makes that ruling. It is a legal decision that is rendered by both the Secretary of the Senate as well as legal counsel. And they did not view that amendment as germane. And plain and simple. So that, I mean, it's not an issue of right and wrong or gray area. It is an issue of clarity, and I had to make that. But for someone to insinuate that we, one, that I'm not in favor of it, and two, we hadn't already passed the bill, we had, and I have fought for that bill, and I'll continue to.
Well, let me ask you this, because as Lieutenant Governor, we have had bills, we've had RFRA bills, and the faith-based community out here in Georgia has felt like they've been let down and promised faith-based religious freedom and liberty bills but then they got to Governor Deal's desk and they got vetoed, or we're in a session to where they didn't get through and get to the governor's desk. So the voters here in Georgia that are looking for a faith-based religious liberty bill that a Governor Casey Cagle will sign some form of bill?
Absolutely, unequivocally, and I have been as clear on this issue as I possibly can. It passes me a mirror image of the federal RFRA standard. I want the bill, plain and simple. It is the law of the land. A lot of the liberal left doesn't like it, and I, that's fine. They don't have to like it, but it is the law of the land, and it is a balancing test that ensures that faith-based organizations and people of faith like me are not discriminated against either. And so I think it is the right thing to do. It has been tried and true and tested over the years, and I'm very much in favor of it, and I'm not backing down.
After seeing what be in the faith-based adoption or faith-based organization protection bill, something all faith-based organization protection, obviously you'd have to see what was in it, but something like that on your desk could get signed as governor of Georgia.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the reason that I worked with Senator Ligon on the bill itself to pass it through the pass through the Senate, and it stalled in the House. And so there's no question that I would advocate for those types of protections. And I think the bill was a fair bill. And again, one of my big issues was the Strengthening Families bill, and that in it is really helping faith-based organizations to come in with wraparound services for single moms or single parents where they may have an addiction or they may have challenges and they need help with that addiction. But secondly, they need child care. They need someone temporarily to take care of that child. This is a great way for our faith-based organizations to come in through the power of attorney to help them versus having to look to government to solve our problems. This gives the parent the ability to make the right choices through a power of attorney temporarily to give custody for their child. It's a wonderful tool that's going to give parents more choices versus making sure that government is the heavy hand. And that's the direction that I want to go as governor.
I have two more things. One is a little deep and the other one will be very quick. Your other opponent, Brian Kemp, actually came out, and your both campaigns have exchanged words over the NRA. And let me frame this up. During what took place with the NRA and Delta, to put it into altogether Delta, you actually gained some national recognition outlets on your stance and your tweet where Delta and the jet fuel tax exemption were concerned with the NRA and their stance. Let me ask you directly, did any legislation pass, whether it be in the transportation bill that is coming up with the 13 counties, or any other legislation passed this year that gives Delta any kind of jet fuel exemption at all?
No is the answer. And it's so frustrating, one, that you have so much fake news and you have individuals that want to politicize something that they know is not factual and is not right. And a letter, when it was being passed out, I had the bill read. I had legislative counsel say, is there anything in here that gives Delta any exemption whatsoever? The answer was no, it does not. And it's just unfortunate, but that's kind of the situation that we find ourselves in politics, that people want to, blur the truth.
Well, Brian Kemp actually sent Chris, and I don't see Chris's last name here, an executive with the NRA, a letter, which I do have a copy of, quoting, saying, "You've been Casey Cagle." You've already heard that a couple times, but referring to as my words, a political stunt with the NRA Delta. And he asked the NRA to review HB 930. Why would he pick out HB 930? And what would you clear up? I know you just said, hey, I answered that, but why did he pick out HB 930? And why did he send this letter to the NRA, which you probably can't answer that?
Yeah, right. I can't speak for someone else. The only person I can speak for is myself. And so 930 was the transit bill. Okay, that was the bill. And this is dealing with taxation. And there was certain exemptions that were placed in there. But that is standard protocol on every single transit bill. So for MARTA or for a bus rapid transit, if the local communities decide to place a tax on themselves for MARTA or any of the other areas, then that exemption does apply. But that is, again, standard legislation that has been put in place every single time. Now, with that being said, there is nothing in there that gives Delta an exemption. Let me be clear. Delta was looking to go from a jet fuel tax to zero. That's what they were asking for. When they chose to engage on the liberal boycott, I said unequivocally, that is not going to happen. And it did not happen. The tax was taken out, and Delta is still paying a jet fuel tax today and into the future.
Well, let me ask you a Second Amendment question, what I call a Second Amendment question, because here recently his campaign is asked the NRA to do some further reviews before they would come out and endorse one candidate. And obviously in the letter which you have seen, he is asking them not to endorse you. But let me ask you a Second Amendment question here directly. Would you support state legislation that would repeal a weapons carry license requirement for open carrying a handgun? Would you support state legislation that would repeal weapons carry license requirement for open carrying a handgun?
The short answer is yes. We have right now, as you know, a concealed weapon permit that individuals can obtain, and certainly there are issues pertaining to mental illness that is out there. I think all of us recognize that, including the NRA. But I believe that the Second Amendment gives us the right to bear arms, and this is not that government, is the one that, has to determine, who can get it and who can't. But with that being said, certainly none of us want individuals that clearly have a mental illness, and it is documented time and time again, being able to, to be out with, with a concealed weapon. But now, with that being said, I'm very, very much in favor of law-abiding citizens having no restrictions there.
We did send every count. I hope we've sent it to the right place, but could you see if we could get a copy of your questionnaire to the NRA? Because we've got other candidates' copy. If you could do that, we'd appreciate it.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And let me just be very clear too. I mean, I am the only candidate that has had a plus rating from the NRA every single year in public service. So my record speaks for itself on the issue of Second Amendment, and I don't think anyone can question that.
The citizens of Georgia want they want to feel safe.
Sure.
Crime. Illegal gangs in the inner cities around Georgia, all over. We have a gang problem in Georgia. MS-13, illegals. What is the Casey Cagle plan for getting tough on crime and deporting illegals, and how you identify who's going to get deported and who's not, and how to work within the federal government and also be tough on crime in Georgia?
Well, I think you probably have followed the fact that one, not only did I outlaw sanctuary cities, but I also defunded sanctuary cities if they're not in compliance. And every single city and county has to prove to DCA that they are in compliance with the state law. And we have one in particular, Decatur, that I have taken before the Immigration Review Board because they issued a statement or issued a policy that states to their law enforcement officers that if a federal detainer, if they pull someone over that has a federal detainer on them, they are not to communicate or cooperate with our federal partners. I believe that this is undeniably against the state law. And I have this is now before the board. It is the liberal side of Decatur is fighting it at every turn, and that's fine. But I'm going to fight it as well because I believe that we are right. It is unconscionable to me to think that we are not going a criminal illegal alien that is pulled over by law enforcement with a federal detainer that you would not cooperate and communicate with federal partners is just, it blows my mind. Not to mention the fact that it is a violation of the oath of office that the officer has taken on top of that. And so we're going to push this to make sure that every single city and county is in place. And listen, to the issue of the broader context of law and order, we have to hold every city, every county, and obviously our state accountable to ensure that we are enforcing the laws where people do feel safe. And too many of our urban areas today, they're looking the other way and they're not being hard and tough on crime. And that's the reason that so many of these petty crimes are going on. And even to the point that one city issued a statement that said, we're not going to investigate or don't call us if someone is shoplifting. Are you kidding me? I mean, what are you saying to the criminal? It's okay because no one's going to comply. This is not going to be tolerated under a Cagle administration.
Obviously the governor, Governor Nathan Deal, it's his last term. And I certainly understand all the candidates obviously not wanting to say anything concerning the governor's office. And we're not asking you to do that. And it's understandable. But what would be one or two of the big differences in a Casey Cagle governor's office that we currently don't see? And it's not really that it's looking for a negative in Governor Nathan Deal. And let's put with that, what are maybe some of the bills that you would see on your desk that as Lieutenant Governor did not make it through, that maybe you said, I'd like to see this on my desk because I would sign it as governor. So what are some of the differences that you would do and have in the governor's office, and what bills would you like to see on your desk?
Well, I think every governor sets his own vision, for where you want to take the state. And this Governor Deal, has done it. He's done a great job. But the torch will be passed. Greater economic prosperity where no one is left behind. I want an even greater robust economy here for our state. That is because that allows our kids and our grandkids to have the jobs that they're going to need in order to be self-sufficient, not a process. I want to continue to build this world as Lieutenant Governor with our college and career academies and our dual enrollment, our German apprenticeship programs, our early college initiative. I want every student I want to have more adult learning opportunities so individuals can be retrained to get to the workplace and be able to make as they possibly can. That's what we believe in. That's what I want to create, that rising tide that lifts all boats in every across the state. And I've got the experience and the record and the understanding in order to accomplish that. And so that will be my priorities. Now, there are other pieces of all of those things that we can talk about, but the broader context of the vision is that we want our kids to have a good paying job and not to have more and more people that are turning to to a life of dependency on government or a life of crime. And this takes the right kind of public policies to move that needle.
We talk about immigration, and I'm sorry, sir, I will let you go. I know you're busy, and you've been kind enough to give us already 30 minutes. But we talk about illegals, and some of us immediately go to gangs and MS-13. But I mean, I'd like to hear myself how tough you'll be on illegals and what's going on in Georgia. They're a burden on our healthcare systems. They're a burden on our rural hospitals with indigent care. They're a burden on our school systems. We have to educate these children that come in. They're a burden. We issue them driver's license without distinguishing the difference in legal and not legal on the driver's license, so on, even to the fact that, we give our driver's license test in so many different languages. But this is such a burden on the state, not just in gangs. How will you handle illegals in the state of Georgia? I know that's a big question, but is there something you can define in that?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's multiple things. One is that I have championed really some of the toughest illegal immigration laws in the country, and Georgia is in a good position. But we have to draw the line to work with our federal partners on the issue of illegal immigration. Now, and the president is doing a great job. He's even sending people to the border to make sure that it is protected. And so we have to work with our federal partners, both in Congress, because they need to act and they need to act swiftly. And honestly, they need to be better supporters of our president, in my opinion. But secondly, we have to have stronger partnerships with on the law enforcement side. This is critically important to ensure that those bad guys, those individuals that are not supposed to be here, are sent back. And so, but the first step is dealing with the criminal illegal alien component. That one is the one that I think all of us have strong agreement in, and that is why the sanctuary cities and the other laws that were passed. Listen, I tried to pass a very stricter illegal immigration bill that stalled in the House this year. So there are far more things that we can do, and I can assure you as governor, we're going to be pushing the envelope.
Thank you. I appreciate you very much. I appreciate the extended time. I know you got a long day of campaigning. We wish you well, Mr. Cagle, on the trail. We hope if you visit up here in North Georgia, maybe we can get you in studio. We know you're all over the state. 159 counties. I hope I got that right. Hopefully between now and the election, we can maybe get you back on once or twice. We thank you very much.
Absolutely, Brian. Great to be with you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'm your host, BKP. We have been talking with Republican candidate for Georgia Governor Casey Cagle, and we'll come back and wrap our day up. Maybe Amanda has something she wants to share with us, right? So take us to break.
I never felt like this before. I swear it's the truth, and I owe it all to you. I'll tell you something. This could be love, because I've had the time of my life. I've never felt like this before, 'cause I've had the time of my life.
The Tupelo Tea mission is to provide over 80 premium tea blends for tea lovers who are looking for ways to explore new flavors and blends. Come visit Tupelo Tea, located in beautiful downtown Blue Ridge at Sycamore Crossing. Be sure to sample our various varieties of honey and tea. Visit us on the web at tupelotea.com or call us at 706-946-TEAS. That's TEAS. Tupelo Tea, located in beautiful downtown Blue Ridge.
Ace is your helpful place for paint and home goods, tools, outdoor living, and lawn equipment. But did you know Ace Hardware of Blue Ridge is a little bit more? We have hunting rifles and accessories for your next hunting trip. We have Amish furniture imported directly from Ohio. And we have Ace Custom Woodworks for all your custom wood project needs, from cabinets to artwork. Ace Hardware of Blue Ridge. We have your new house in stock.
Hi, I'm Rhonda the Mattress Lady, and this is my husband Gary, owners of Mattress Overstocked in LJ next to Walmart. And we want to earn your business. From the time you walk in our door to the time we deliver your new mattress to your door, you will see the difference. Our selection and prices are the best in North Georgia, and customer service is our top priority. So y'all come on in and let us help you find the right mattress at the right price. That's Mattress Overstocked in LJ next to Walmart.
Days ahead.
It's just this simple. Nobody beats Days on price. If it's a Chevy, you'll pay less at Days Chevrolet in Jasper. Now save $4,000 off a new 2018 Chevy Malibu, or save up to $10,000 off a new 2018 Silverado Crew Cab. It doesn't matter which Chevy you choose. Nobody beats Days on price. $10,000 off Silverados and $4,000 off Malibus at Days Chevy in Jasper.
Better days ahead. Days Chevrolet.
Find new roads.
What you gonna do with all that junk?
Online morning show. I'm just checking some emails and some text messages. North Georgia's only live online morning show. And that wraps up our interviews of candidates this morning. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and Facebook at Fetch Your News, at FYNTV on Twitter, or our Facebook page, Fetch Your News and FYNTV Facebook page, and to see our lineup every day of the guests we will have. Now, dangerous to the community. I'll just say that. What say you, Amanda? You got anything going on today before we wrap up?
I got something real quick. So we were talking yesterday about Diamond and so I've seen all the videos and how Facebook's putting up a censorship on their Facebook page. There's nothing on their YouTube channel yet, but earlier they had posted a couple of things. Diamond and Silk had posted together. Let us be clear, Facebook has not communicated with Diamond and Silk and Mark Zuckerberg or in any way. They have not tried to communicate with them why they have deemed them unsafe. But there was a post from a viewer that Diamond and Silk had actually shared onto their page where he could not follow them and see their, I don't know if you are familiar with the settings where you can follow somebody and see, you can ever have a default where their stuff just comes up on your feed, and you can have a see first where if they post something, it will come up in your notifications. Well, Facebook had actually set up where you cannot see first on Diamond and Silk's page, because I tried it. So this was earlier this morning when I could not follow, I could not see Diamond and Silk stuff first. Well, I come back to it about an hour later after the post, and it suddenly let me follow first. So this is just a quick cleanup from Facebook.
A quick cleanup from Facebook. Cleanup. So now they were marked dangerous, possible dangerous to community.
Right.
So it's almost like the post office where a danger to the community may be armed and dangerous, right?
And that has everything to do with them being a conservative.
Maybe, yeah, well, wait, let's not gloss over something, okay? The left picks winners and losers, and they pick who they will support and who they will rally behind when it comes to women. This is a direct example, okay, of the hypocrisy of the left. Because a conservative woman with a pro-life agenda or conservative agenda or pro-NRA, whatever you may say, the list goes on, they do not rally behind you. You know, if you were to lose your job today, for example, because you're conservative and I'm not a conservative news network and I'm not satisfied with your stance, even if it's on the show or not, or your views, there would be no women rushing here to rally behind you.
Right.
They would not be here to rally behind you. But if we're a conservative news network and you're pro-choice, and I mean, I'm just using a couple examples, you know where I'm going with that, or you voted for Hillary and you're offended and you feel this is a hostile work environment.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Oh, right. It is a hostile work environment, or oh, right. Which was the answer on that? So, but what I'm saying,
I get where you're going.
Let's not gloss over the fact that these are women.
Yep.
They say they are black women, but they're African American women that support Trump. So that's a little confusing.
They've got a loud voice with being conservative and African American in this country. And Facebook wants it down.
They want to shut down the African American conservative viewpoint.
Yes.
That cannot happen. And the interesting thing is they have the stereotype of what generally is being on the list of being defended by left-wing groups when it comes to women and women's rights and their ability to speak their mind, correct?
That is correct.
But Diamond and Silk are considered dangerous to the community.
Unsafe. Facebook has deemed them unsafe.
Unsafe, but they are, and you wonder the power. Now we have can you look this up for me while I'm talking about something else? Look up the state senator or state legislator in California that has created a bill. I read this yesterday, I forget his name, that is introducing a bill for the state of California to put in a fake news monitor. Okay, it's actually going to be from the state. This kind of stuff is scary as hell. You know, they want kids to go out and take your guns, and state monitored. It starts there, but never fear. We are not going to take away rights. We will defend them. See if you can find that. Folks, here in Georgia, and my concern is I have seen this on the we've seen this in Georgia across the country, and this has, and I didn't get a chance to ask Casey Cagle this, but this has also what I would like to ask all the candidates for governor how they feel about DACA when you say, well, that's a federal question, but no, it affects states. Because if DACA passes and Georgia has an enormous amount of illegals in the state of Georgia, and if DACA passes, it immediately gives these illegals, makes them legal and gives them a whole new set of rights under the Georgia Constitution and available benefits to them and different things that they could take advantage of just by the stroke of a pen by the federal government. So when you look at DACA and you ask yourself, well, why would you ask a governor, a candidate for governor that question? It affects every state. Now, Arizona, there's an argument in so many state Supreme Court right now that illegals that are from DACA get in-state tuition. Okay, so if little Bobby or Susie, if they want to go out to another state, state schools were originally set up, and I don't want to say this because I get in trouble, but to educate the children in your state with some sort of subsidy or low cost to the residents of your state to help the children in your state get an education. But we know that went out the window and they have exploded. But still yet you have what's called out-of-state tuition, which also applies to out of the country. You don't get in-state tuition. So Arizona rejected. The Arizona court yesterday rejects lower in-state tuition for immigrants. The Supreme Court has ruled that young immigrants granted deferred deportation status. Deferred DACA, right? Hell, you say. I think that's DACA. So the court ruled that young immigrants, DACA, granted deferred deportation status under a program started by former President Barack Obama are not eligible for lower in-state tuition. Well, isn't that the saddest story you've heard today? That Barack Obama's illegal children, interesting, the way I just put that, are not eligible for in-state tuition, DACA. Okay, the young immigrants granted deferred deportation status under a program started by President Barack Obama are not eligible for in-state college tuition, the Arizona Supreme Court ruled Monday. Here's something I want you to take note of in the story while they are talking about Stormy Daniels, $130,000, and President Donald Trump's attorney. The unanimous ruling. Now, get that. This is not lead story anywhere in the United States. This is a state Supreme Court. Okay? And we don't have one justice defecting. We do not have one dissent ruling. We cannot read the dissent opinion. Now, what that is, if I'm correct, is when a court, rules on something 5-4, 5-4, 6-3, I don't know, whatever, there is the descending side. There's the minority side. And there's a descending, there's a descending opinion written, all right? All right, they did not, this group, and somebody in that group that voted no they write their opinion. And it does go on record of why they voted no. There's not one dissenting opinion here to be had on this. So this is DACA, folks. I have been to rallies in Georgia where illegals that are under the deferred deportation status, DACA, want in-state tuition because they started school here, but they got here when they were 4, 6, 7, or started in the 5th grade or whatever. Under this status, they want that. It will affect 2,000 students attending the state's largest community college district and hundreds more in other colleges and the state's 3 public universities. First word of the 7-0 decision in a tweet from Arizona Attorney General Mark Brnovich. The court said it would issue a written opinion explaining its reason by May 14th. 7-0. The higher court heard the arguments, but 7-0. This ruling is troubling for 2,000 DACA students currently enrolled in community college. DACA. That subject, Arizona State University, there is state rights here, there's federal rights. Now, if the federal government comes out and cuts a DACA deal, we have an Arizona Supreme Court, state Supreme Court decision on this now. DACA. I'm just telling you, this story is bigger than they're giving it credit for. Amanda, did you find that person in that story for me?
I did.
Let's go to break. Let's take a brief break and get everything off the computer. I don't want to see anymore, and all the things I want to close the show. So let's take a brief break, and we're going to come back, talk about freedom of speech, fake news. Who's going to decide? We'll tell you when we return.
Hello, my name is Chad Watkins. I'm the manager at Larry's Body Shop. We are a family-owned and operated business and have been serving the North Georgia area since 1978. We are located at 1216 Progress Road in Ellijay, Georgia. Our shop specializes in collision repair, and we work with all major insurance companies. Larry's Body Shop is ICAR Gold, the highest role of training recognized by the collision repair industry. It is estimated that only 10% of collision shops meet these standards. Our shop consists of state-of-the-art equipment such as laser measurement system, down-drive spray booth, spot and MIG welding equipment. All of our paints are mixed on site so that we can guarantee your paint to match every time. I know that having an accident can be a stressful event. We take pride in making sure our customers are satisfied with the repair of their vehicles. Our waiting area is clean and comfortable with free Wi-Fi and refreshing beverages. So if you're in an accident, stop by and see us at Larry's Body Shop.
Circuit World, brand name merchandise at unbelievably low prices. Furniture, appliances, and electronics. Circuit World is locally owned and operated, serving the tri-state area. Circuit World has highly trained professionals to help. Visit your hometown Circuit World today. 3 locations in Georgia: Ellijay, Blue Ridge, and Blairsville, Franklin, and Murphy, North Carolina. No credit checks, so let Circuit World deliver to you today.
North Georgia Diamond is your source for diamonds. Come on in to view the area's largest selection of fine jewelry at North Georgia Diamond. All repairs and designs are done on site by our jewelers. And North Georgia Diamond has the lowest prices on loose diamonds. You can also sell your gold, silver, and coins at North Georgia Diamond between Walmart and Lowe's in East Ellijay. Locally owned by Bill and Allison Craig, North Georgia Diamond is your source for diamonds in North Georgia.
In 1981, Reed Nicholson began selling tires out of an old barn in Mineral Bluff. Little did he know that he had just laid the groundwork for the most trusted names in automotive services in the Blue Ridge area. In 1997, Nicholson Tire Center became what it is today, holding the same values of faith, family, and great customer service. 2 locations to serve you, and the Blue Ridge location is currently expanding to offer fast service and the largest U-Haul provider in Georgia. Nicholson Tire Center, Blue Ridge, and Mineral Bluff.
Medium Pizza Hut pizzas just $5.99 each.
Did they say Pizza Hut?
For $5.99?
Yes, and yes.
Yes. Introducing the deal you want on the pizza you crave. 2 medium pizzas just $5.99 each. No one out pizzas the hut.
Before we go any further, happy birthday, Natalie. Now, will you shut up and get back to work?
Happy birthday, Natalie.
Oh, my God. It's like, when are you going to say
Ignore
happy?
Brian.
So earlier, there's a couple things. Natalie's our reporter in Fannin County, does an outstanding job. And you know, she will not hush till somebody says happy birthday to her. All right. So would anybody out there send her a message, say happy birthday? Okay. Anyhow, let's check the Twitter deck. 2 hours ago, the President of the United States said attorney-client privilege is dead. It's dead in America. The Constitution has been trampled on. It's a constitutional crisis. I don't hear that. I don't hear that from anybody. Do you hear that? Do you hear them running out in the halls in front of MSNBC like all of these leftists? Our democracy is at stake. It's a constitutional crisis. Do you hear that? Hell no. Did you hear it, Amanda?
I heard it.
If you caused me to break my glasses, I hope I didn't throw the wrong pair. Oh, hell, I might have.
I think you threw the good ones.
Oh, those are my, they're stunt glasses.
That was instant
They're
karma.
prop glasses. I just tossed them.
Instant karma.
Let's go over to the dollar store and get me. I'm going to do that today. I wanted like $5 of stunt glasses I can just toss across the room. Right?
We have glasses coming out of our ears here.
Okay, attorney-client privilege is dead. A total witch hunt. Salem witch trials. Holy mackerel. All right, let's move on to something else here I wanted to talk about before we leave today's show. Now, Amanda, we looked up the California, and Amanda, thank you very much, 2 California public record laws. Okay? These are actually been introduced out there where the grapes and nuts live. Okay? 2 California public record laws, one for legislature and one for everyone else. Interesting. Today, the California legislature created one open records law for state and local governments, the California Public Records Act, a totally different law for themselves, the Legislative Open Records Act. Journalists beware. The internet has become I can't even say that word, too many syllables. I know what it says. Forum for phony news, shady online ads and posts. All right. Smear campaigns and Russian disinformation plots. The state of press freedom in the United States based on an annual survey by Newsom's First Amendment Center. They are putting in a law, okay, that would put in what's called they are going to put in who is fake news. They're going to put in a whole section in California to look at what fake news is and determine who the fake news belongs to, all right, and to pull it down. They are going to, and I don't have time to go through it completely, but California is going to put in a fake news monitor. That's exactly right. The state wants to determine what fake news is, the state-run media. So the interesting side of it, I won't say it's the first time, but at least California is coming out. Well, there's a thing that usually happens in California. You come out. Usually California is coming out and just openly letting us know that it is state-run media, and they plan to even legislate it that way, that if they can't do it by any other means, they'll do it with legislation to decide what's fake and what's real. I've got to go. I hear we're out of time. Now, tonight is the Blue Ridge City Council meeting. All right. And let's go with that. Tonight is the Blue Ridge City Council meeting. And they have on there police chief on the agenda. So they are going to Blue Ridge City Council tonight. Where you see police chief, remember the beginning of the year, they voted wishy-washy. Mayor Whitener led the way in voting for Johnny Searcy, the chief of police of Blue Ridge, to be named interim until they could do a search for possibly a new chief of police. He was named interim. Not even 90 days later, they have made a full decision that whatever caused them to go the route to name him interim, whatever happened then in the last 90 days, they are now ready to say he is actually the police chief, and they're going to reinstate his status tonight, is my opinion, okay, until they vote all in favor aye. This is only my opinion that they're going to reinstate his status to actually police chief. So would he be known as the Teflon John? Teflon John is going to be reinstated by wishy-washy Mayor Whitener. There you go. Oh, who's going to turn out the lights on the theater? Oh my God. Whoa, that's tonight. I'm going to do it live. I'm going to put it live on Facebook. Follow our Facebook page. FetcherNews.com TV is going to broadcast this live, where you will see the Teflon John reinstated as the police chief, led by the way of Mayor Wishy-Washy Donna Whitener. That was mean, wasn't it? Hey, it's 10 o'clock. I did say earlier, Amanda, that as a conservative woman, you know, who would be running to your defense, okay? And I did get a text message from Lisa that her and Sam would. So you need to know that as we close.
I love them.
Do you love them?
I love them.
Okay. I'm your host, BKP. Good morning from the office, Georgia's only live online morning show. And we'll be back tomorrow morning. That would be Wednesday, right? That's right, Wednesday, tomorrow morning. Tonight, Blue Ridge City Council, you name it. Send me a text, 706-889-9700. Email me, chief@fetchernews.com. Follow us on @fetchernews.fyntv, Facebook, YouTube, you name it. Hell, our data's out there, baby, and Mark Zuckerberg's going to explain how he uses it. Congress on the floor of Congress today. Take us out of here.